Hi everyone, welcome to another Procreate tutorial. This is the drawing that we'll be completing in today's video. This fun, cute little skull surrounded by flowers. Fun for Halloween, but just kind of cute in general. I give you the option to use a different background color if you want to use something different. I give you some easy steps to follow to find what colors to use for the background, the stripes, and the shadow. So feel free to mix that up if you would like to. But a nice, quick, fun one today. So if you're new here, I mainly post Procreate tutorials, so if that's something you're interested in, go ahead and subscribe. I also offer extra tutorials over on Patreon, so that's linked in the description below. If you sign up over there, you get access to exclusive tutorials every month, along with sneak peeks of what we're drawing over here on YouTube and some other fun stuff. If you join right now, you get access to all of the tutorials that I've already posted over there over the last year and a half. So here are some of the ones that we've been doing recently. But before we get started on today's video, the only thing that you will need to do is download the color palette. I have it linked in the description below. It's totally free to download. Just save the file to your iPad and then double tap it or click on it and click open in Procreate, and it will automatically pop into Procreate so that you can use the same colors as you follow along with the video today. And then I will also post the canvas dimensions, color profile, and layers needed on the screen and in the description below so that you can use those to set up your canvas. So take a minute to get everything ready and then come back and we'll get started. Okay, this is the color palette that we'll be working with today. So the first three colors on the first row are all of our background related colors. So the first one is our main background color, the second lighter one is our stripes color, and then the third one is our shadow color for underneath our skull. So if you want to, you can use a different background color. You'll just have to use a different set of these three colors, but I'll show you how easy it is to recreate them. So if we go to our classic view here, this is the one I like to use. If we're on this first color, you'll see it's at the very top of the square, and it's like maybe a quarter of the way from the left side of this, from the top left corner there. That's our main background color. The next one, if you click on it, scoots to the left just a little bit closer to white. And then this third one for our shadow is basically straight down from our first one in kind of this grayer area. So you would just do the same thing for any other set of colors. So if you wanted to use like a kind of bluish green, you could go over to this bluish green area. This first one, like a quarter of the way from the top left, would be your main background color. You'd go to the left a little bit on that top line for your stripes color. And then for your shadow color, you would go like straight down from that first main color in this kind of grayish area. So you could do that for any color, like if you want to use like more of like a blue violet kind of purple. If you want to use like orange or something, feel free to mess around with that if you don't want to use the same background color that I did. But either way, let's go ahead and get right into it. So on our layer menu, we are going to open that up and we are going to click on this background color layer and set it to the first color on the first row of our color palette, or whichever color you want to use for your background. Then we will go back to our layer menu and make sure we're on layer 1 here, and we are going to draw the stripes in the background first. So I'm going to grab my second color on the top row of my color palette, or a lighter version of your background color. For our pen, we're going to be on the Studio Pen under the inking category. Our opacity for the brush is at 100. Our size is at like 40. I'm zoomed out here on the canvas a little bit. We're going to start off the top side towards the left and just kind of draw like a straightish line going down. Kind of wavy and wiggly is what we're going for. We also are using the Studio Pen, so it gives us kind of some very thickness, which is fun as well. So then I'll aim for 6 going across, so I'll just kind of go over, do that a few more times. Again, just kind of wiggly, different, something like that. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing horizontally. Again, I'm going to aim for 6. Beautiful. So a nice, good little variety of lines like that makes up our little patterned background. Okay, and then after that, we're going to get right into the skull. We'll come back to do our shadow after everything's kind of in place. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer above our layers so far. Grab our first color on the second row of the color palette, and grab our monoline brush under the calligraphy tab. My monoline brush, the opacity is set to 100. My size is set to 30. And to start up our skull, we're going to make a perfect circle. So I'm just going to start on my screen, make a good perfect circle like this, hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth, touch your finger on the screen to make a perfect circle. Okay, then we're going to click this circle button at the top to adjust it. So if you need to resize the whole circle, you can tap in between two of the blue dots on your circle here and drag it around to resize it. And then I am going to drag it to where one of my dots is like a little bit to the left of like the top line. So if this is like my top line, I'm going to go to the little to the left of that. So our dots are kind of at this angle. And then I'm going to take this right dot and stretch it out a little bit. So we get like a little bit of an oblong circle. I might take the bottom dot and move it up a smidge as well. So something kind of like this. So just slightly oblong where it's a little bit longer this way. Then we're going to go ahead and fill that in. Grab it with your arrow tool on uniform and we can resize it. It's a little big for me, but upsize or downsize yours a little bit if needed. And we're just going to kind of place it somewhere in the center here. If we have snapping turned on in the bottom left and we center it like on our two yellow lines here, I'm going to go down and to the left of that just a little bit so that we have room on the right side here to make the front of our skull and some room above for some flowers. So something maybe like this. And we can move it around or resize it more later if needed. But we're just going to stay on this same layer to kind of finish off our skull here, make this front piece. So same layer, same color, same brush. And I'm going to start kind of where the top right kind of corner is here. And we're going to come off that in a slightly curved line, hold that down until it turns perfectly smooth. And I've extended it about as long as like to where it would meet up with this if there was like a horizontal line there. But after you hold it down, you can click the Edit Arc button at the top and adjust it if you need to. But just a very slight curve like this meets up nicely with our skull there. Then from the bottom here, we'll make maybe a slightly angled line like down into the left a little bit. And then we'll kind of round back up to meet up with our circle. Smooth that all out, make sure it's all connected and fill it in. Smooth it out if you need to. I might even use my brush a little bit and erase some of it. Got a little long on me perhaps. So I'm just going to erase it nice and smoothly. But then this is what it should look like after that. So yeah, just the slightest little angle at the bottom there. And then it connects back with our circle maybe like a third of the way through. Beautiful. Now we can go ahead and place our face first, and then we'll add all the details around it, like the cracks and the shadows and stuff. So on our layer menu, let's add a new layer. Let's grab our 6th color on the second row and our same monoline brush. And we're just going to first make an eyeball just kind of in the middle-ish here. We can move it around in a moment. But a good, nice oval shape, hold it down until it turns perfectly smooth. And then you can click this Edit Ellipse button at the top to adjust it, but we want a nice, good kind of oval, a little bit more vertical than it is horizontal. So something about like this. It's basically straight up and down, maybe tilted slightly to the left at the top. Now let's go ahead and fill that in. And we're just going to make a duplicate of this one for the other one. So on our layer menu, just on this layer, slide to the left and hit duplicate. Grab it with your arrow tool and move it over to the other side, maybe up a little bit as well. So I moved it over and up. I might move the other one back over a little bit further. It's kind of like lined up with like where this little crevice is, where my two shapes meet at the bottom. It's kind of right above that. So that looks good. On our layer menu, let's go ahead and snap those two layers together so they're all in one layer. And then if you need to with your arrow tool, you can like resize them or move them around. I have like a little space on the right side still of our skull there. But that looks good. Then on the same layer, we'll draw the nose. So same brush, same color. I'm just going to go down right in between the eyes here and make an upside down heart. So something like this. So I just kind of got it started. I'll fill it in and then I might kind of like thicken it, widen it. Try to make both sides pretty even. Smooth it out. Something like that. Looks good. If you need to resize this or anything, you can use your selection tool on freehand with color fill turned off, and you can select around just the nose since it's on the same layer as the eyes. And you can like grab it with your arrow tool, you can move it around, you can rotate it, you can resize it, anything like that. So feel free to do any adjusting if you need to, but that looks pretty good. Okay, now we're going to make the kind of 3D effect to the eyes and the nose. So once you're happy with those, let's go to our layer menu, slide to the left and hit duplicate on this layer. Grab the bottom one. Click on it and turn on Alpha Lock. Grab our fourth color on the second row. And then back to our layer menu, this layer with Alpha Lock turned on, click on it and click Fill Layer. Okay, and we can't see it because it's below this darker one. Now we're going to grab the darker one on top, click on it and set it to a clipping mask, so it's clipped to the shape below it. And then grab it with your arrow tool and move it straight to the left and maybe down a little bit too, kind of right about there. So now you can kind of see this edge come through that makes it look like we're seeing like the inside of the skull. And it all looks good, like the ovals look good. The nose looks a little weird because this creamy part in the background should be connected with this lighter color in the front. So we're on that layer. We're going to use our eraser tool, which I also have set to the monoline brush. And I'm just going to erase through this black area right here horizontally until this kind of connects with that whiter, lighter color in the front. So that it looks like that is like 3D right there. So that's all we need to do there to fix it and make that look nice and 3D. So that looks awesome. Now let's continue on. While we're on this layer, I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit of texture to it. So on our layer menu, click on this layer with our black shapes on it and turn on Alpha Lock. Grab our last color on the second row, 7th in line, our really dark black, and we're going to add like a little bit of a shadow inside. And we're going to use a texture for this. We're going to use the To Be Compressed Charcoal under the Charcoals category. My opacity is at 100. My size, let's do like 10. And I'm just going to go through and kind of towards the bottom. So we're like bottom and left side. I'm just going to add a little bit of this for like kind of a shadow and a little bit of texture in there. Beautiful. Doesn't make a huge difference, but a difference nonetheless. Now we'll go ahead and add the other details to the skull. So let's go back to our skull layer, add a layer right above it and click on it and set it to a clipping mask so we only draw within the skull shape. Let's grab our lighter of our blackish colors here, the 6th one on the second row again, and go back to our studio pen under the inking category. I'll maybe lower my size a little bit to like 20%. And we're first going to draw like the teeth across the bottom. So I'm just going to start on the left side here of this little area and go boom, straight up like this, coming from the bottom always. So we get like a nice tapered top, and they're kind of varying in their size and length. So, and they're just kind of like angled slightly with the angle of the skull. So something kind of like that. Very simple there. If you feel like you need to, you can always like move the face around too. So if it's like too far away, you can go to your layer menu and you can select your 2 face layers. So select one, slide right on the other, grab it with your arrow tool, and you can kind of move it around. So if I move mine down a little closer to my teeth, they look a little far away. So maybe more about there is good. Okay, back to my teeth layer that's clipped to our skull, and we'll add some cracks. Same color, same studio pen. So I'm just going to pick a few spots on the side of his head to come in with some cracks. So like I might start in the top left here and come in, do some wiggly lines like this or some straight lines, and then kind of let them like taper off into like a point, something like that. Maybe some more like shooting off of them. Adjust your pen size or anything if necessary, if you push too hard or too light. But we'll just do maybe something like that there. Maybe I'll come in here and do another little bit. And then maybe down here as well. We'll have a couple. Something like that. So I just did like 3 of those, and then I feel like that looks good for our skull. So we're just gonna add some texture and a shadow to it, and then we're all done. So on our layer menu, let's add a layer right above our skull layer again. So find our skull layer, add a layer right above it. It'll automatically set itself to a clipping mask because it's below this other clipping mask. So they're both clipped to this skull shape here. So our skull shape was with this first color on the second row, and then I have two lighter ones right next to it because we're going to add some texture and like a little teeny highlight to it. So the second color on the second row, let's grab that and switch back to our charcoal brush, the 2B compressed charcoal brush. I might up the size to maybe like 20 for this because it's going to be just like some all over texture. So I'm just going to go over this like one good time to add a little bit of texture there. You can't see it a ton, but if you zoom in, it's there. Okay, same layer. We're just going to grab a different color now, third one on the second row. Same brush. I might lower my size to like 10 again. And this is more of like a highlight color. So I'm going to kind of just use it towards the edges in like this round motion. So I'm not going all the way to the edge, just right next to it. And then just kind of adding some there. Maybe add a few like patches throughout the skull as well, just to add some more just texture and, highlight and stuff. Something like that. Okay, lastly, we're going to add a shadow to our skull, so that'll be the last step. So on our layer menu, find our top clipping mask to our skull here, add a layer above it, click on it and set it to a clipping mask as well, so we're above our other two, still clip to our skull shape. Click the N on this layer, and this time we're going to change this layer style, we're going to change it to multiply. And then we're going to grab our fifth color on the second row. And we're going to switch back to our monoline brush for this. We're not going to do the texture this time, just our monoline brush. We are going to come in right where these two meet here and follow it up, kind of straight up from here, or like at the same angle where it comes up a little ways, and then we're going to curve off the back side of the skull. So make a nice curve line, hold it down, click the arc button if you need to adjust it. So a good kind of curve right off the back side there. Okay, and then we need to connect it to fill it in. So I'm going to connect it outside the bottom part of our skull here, and then fill that in. Smooth it out if you need to, but just a good shadow right there. Okay, and then once that's done, that is it for all of our skull. So on our layer menu, we can group all these layers together. So select one, slide right on all the others to select them too. So all of our layers are selected except for our background color in our layer one. And go ahead and click group. So this is our whole skull. If I click this arrow to minimize it, we just can select this group here. And when we click the arrow tool, it all selects and we can move it around. So if you need to resize it at all, you can do so in uniform or anything like that. We just need room for some flowers around it, nothing too crazy. So I'm just going to kind of place it here. Now that it's extended on the right side with our mouth, I'm going to center it on my center yellow line, the vertical one, and then I'm still going to be probably a little lower than halfway. So if we find our horizontal line as well, like this, I'm going to be below that, but on my vertical line. Right about here is good. Room on the sides, room all the way around it. Beautiful. The first thing we're going to do is make the shadow around it. So on our layer menu, let's add a layer right above layer one here. Click the N and set it to multiply. And we're going to be on our third color in the top row. So if you use a different background color, make sure to use like a grayish version of it, a little darker and grayer on the color scale, and still on our monoline brush. So we're going to draw kind of a wavy shape behind and under our skull. So I'm just going to start kind of on the back here, maybe about halfway through its head, come out, and I'm going to kind of do a little like wavy shape, something like this, connected across the back so I can fill it in. Okay, that's kind of the idea. I'm going to do it a little faster so I get it a little smoother. Connect it again, fill it in, and then we can adjust it a little bit if we need to. I don't want this so open there. Fill that in, kind of smooth it out in any areas that you might need to. Okay, you can also grab it with your arrow tool. And on freeform, you can like stretch it out. You can move it. You can do anything like that that you might need to do. You can rotate it if it got kind of crooked on you, anything like that. But we just want a good area around our skull in shadow like this. I might make this a little bit bigger here. Fill that in. Then we're also going to draw just a few little blobs. So I'm going to have like a little blob here, maybe a little blob over here, and a little one there. And then I'm going to fill those in. Click continue filling after you fill in one and you can do the others. Smooth those out. Okay. And then again, if we want to move anything around, feel free to do so. I think this looks pretty good though. Okay, now we'll add some flowers. So we'll add a couple behind and then we'll add a couple in front as well. So let's do the behind ones first. So on our layer menu, let's add a layer right above our multiply layer here below our group with our skull. Grab our first green color, first one on the last row, and we'll do our studio pen again. I still have mine at 20%. Use whatever size feels right to you. I'm going to start in the back of the skull, just kind of pretend, and I'm going to kind of come up here to a point. Maybe start back here and come up to another point over there. And I'll probably just do the two behind. I'm also going to add some leaves to them if I can see it. So kind of just a very general leaf shape. Connect it, fill it in, clean up anything that you can see. Maybe we'll have a full one over here. Fill those in, clean those up. Maybe I'll also see part of one coming below. Fill that in. Awesome, that looks good for our back stems. So now we'll just keep on going with that. We'll make our front stems. So on our layer menu, just add a new layer above our group now. And we'll do a similar thing. So I'm going to start with just the bases and we'll just kind of come up. Pretty quick lines. Maybe one there. Maybe I'll do one in the front here, kind of crossing over that way. And then maybe I'll do one over here, like in this bigger middle area. Like so. Let's go ahead and add our leaves to them, and it's okay if they like overlap with each other, like if this leaf is going to be here and overlap with the top of that flower stem, that's okay. And then same thing over here. And this is why we're in front of the skull for these. So if they overlap with our skull, that is what we want to see. Okay, then on top of this, on the same layer here, same color, we're going to make our grass. So we're going to make a little bit of grass just shooting up everywhere in front of the skull in little sections or kind of on their own. Little just good variation in sizing. Something maybe like that. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and add some quick lines to our leaves. So on our color palette, grab our second color on the bottom row. Same studio pen, let's lower the size maybe to 10 so they're nice and thin. And within each leaf, I'm just going to start near the stem and go out like this to make a quick line. I'll do this for all the front ones on the same layer here. And then I'll go to my back layer to add those two. So back to my back layer, same color and everything. Quick lines. Beautiful. Now we're ready to add our flowers, and we can add those above our skull. Unless your back stems are like really, really low and close to your skull, then you might need to add them on top of that stem layer, like a new layer there. But mine are all pretty far above it, so I'm going to add a layer to the very top for my flowers. Grab my third color on this bottom row, same studio pen, I'll go back up to 20%. And we are just going to make some quick flowers. They're going to be kind of like horizontal looking, so I'll show you how to do that. So we're going to start at the top of the stem, and we are going to go out on one side pretty long in a petal, out on the opposite side pretty long in a petal. Then we need two more on the top and bottom, so we're going to make those like a little shorter, like this, and all connect to the middle. Then I'm going to fill those in so I can fill in one, click continue filling and tap into the others or use my pen, whichever works. But that makes them look kind of horizontalish. So we're going to do that for each one. They can be like a little bit different from each other. They don't all have to be perfect, but 6 petals-ish on each one would be good. Awesome. Those look great. So now we just need the centers of them. So on our layer menu, add a new layer, grab our 4th color on the last row. Same brush is fine, and we'll just start in the middle of each one and make a little oval. So kind of like a long oval, like going the same way as like our longest petals. Like this. Nothing too perfect. I'm not holding it down or anything, but you can if you would like to. Beautiful. And once that's done, that is it for our drawing today. So that's it for our skull. So very, very quick and fun one. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that you like the way that yours turned out. I hope that you maybe learned something new. So if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up so that YouTube shows it to more people and they can follow along as well. It really helps out my channel. I really appreciate it. And if you aren't already, make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss out on any future tutorials from me. And if you would like to share your drawing on Instagram, I would love to see it. So go ahead and post it there and then tag me so that I can check it out. And while you're there, go ahead and give me a follow so that you can see what I'm working on next. Thanks for watching.